Well, hello, welcome everybody. I want to issue a warning up front that I had really bad allergies right now. I'm getting over an upper respiratory infection, and so my body has convinced me it's not going to cough, but in case it does, I might have to go on mute and do a little bit of coughing so I can come back to you and give you the best version of myself. I did exercise self-care, so I rested all weekend long. The cough just started today in cabinet, so I think we're going to be okay. What I want to talk about today is who's in your circle. And when I thought about this topic, I thought to myself, how do I present this in a way that it lands for people? I think often we talk about these networking and getting to know people and getting mentors and sponsors and all of these things as if it's a really easy thing to do. And often people don't talk about the how of how you do these things. So where I'm hoping to take you today is to walk you through some of the important relationships that I think are necessary for really moving your leadership forward, and then give you some tips and pointers for how to get there. Um, I will offer you the opportunity to follow along. There is a worksheet that if I were brave and if it were working, I would put it in the chat, but I don't even know where it is at this point. So if I'm able to find it, I will drop it into the chat. If not, I will send it to you after the fact. But you will also see it projected onto the screen, so you'll be able to screenshot it as well. So let's get started. You've heard a little bit about me already, so I won't waste time on those details. I want to talk about your leadership circle. So what you see on the screen are some concentric circles, really prettily put together, and they say mentors, sponsors, leader and coach, and networks. I'm going to walk you through this in a very particular kind of way today, and it may seem like it's a little backwards. Sometimes people start in the outer circle. I'm actually going to start toward the bottom of that circle and work our way in to talk about these various pieces. I think it's first important to talk to you about, again, how I thought through this process of bringing you through this. So I started to think about my 32-year leadership journey. And for my particular career, it all felt kind of accidental to me. Like it just sort of happened, right? I collected mentors along the way. I collected sponsors. My network kind of grew and developed. And I don't know that I spent a lot of time thinking about how I actually developed these relationships. What I thought it was really important to do for this particular conversation was to reverse engineer my life and to go back and look over this 32-year career and really think about, how did I get here? Because again, it's hard for me to walk you through how to get there with just a little bit of storytelling and not really think about what were the things that were actually transpiring in my life. So that's how I ended up with this leadership circle model. You're the first people to see it. Let me know how it goes and if you have any tweaks and adjustments for me. But this is how it unfolded for me. So the first thing I want to talk about is networks and what networks do for you. So the network is sort of the ecosystem. It is the place where it represents the broadest layer of your professional relationships. And networks can show up in a variety of different ways, but what they do for you is they provide access to people, ideas, information, and opportunities. Networks expose people to a variety of different perspectives. It gives you the opportunity to collaborate. It really expands your possibilities. And so many of the opportunities that we gain simply come from being in connection with a broader professional community. So for those of you who are thinking, I'm already behind on this networking thing, $5 says that you're not behind. $5 says that you're already a part of an ecosystem, a network that you've probably not even acknowledged. Today, by being a part of leadership, you are a part of a network. For women who are on this call that showed up at the Thrive Conference this past summer, you're a part of a network. For those of us who are part of the Brave Women at Work books, we're a part of a network. And so that's how it starts. If you're a student and you're a student organization, that's part of your networks. So again, it gives you connections and access. Information flows there. It's where you start to gain a level of visibility, either as just a participant or sometimes as someone who's actually actively contributing because you're doing things, maybe taking on leadership roles, maybe bringing other people into the community, maybe you're doing some mentoring yourself. So networks connect you to opportunity and possibility. So for those of you who are maybe resistant to the notion of joining things or being a part of things, let me just say to you right today, that this is a really important part of building your leadership journey. Without a network, it's going to be really difficult for you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. In fact, in just our last session that I was sitting in with Jen Smith, she said 90% of your opportunities come out of the networks that you're already a part of. So bring that in. If 90% of your opportunities are coming from the networks that you're already a part of, then it really behooves you to think about the places and spaces where you're planting yourself. The next part of this ecosystem that I want to share with you is mentors. This is the one that I think a lot of people struggle with, and they don't always know how to get there. They're a little bit nervous about what mentors can do for them. And again, I'm going to submit to you that perhaps, just perhaps, you probably are already in some mentoring relationships. But first, let's talk about what they look like. So our mentors share their wisdom shaped by their lived experiences. They help leaders to interpret challenges, develop skills, gain perspective during transitions, or just in day-to-day living. Mentors often share their stories, they share the lessons that they've learned, and they usually are drawing from their own advice. Their advice is coming from their lived experiences and their leadership journeys. Mentors will talk with you about your growth. So again, some of you probably automatically shut down when I said the notion of, when I said the word mentor, you're like, nope, don't have one, don't know how to get one. And they confuse me. What I'm going to say to you is mentoring can be both a formal process or it can be informal. And I'll say it like this. So Viola Davis is my mentor, y'all. She's mine. I accept her. I embrace her. Tabitha Brown is my mentor. Mel Robbins is my mentor. I consume the things that these people produce, the books that they put out, the messaging that they put out into the atmosphere. I consume that. Have I actually met these people? Not yet. It's coming because that's how I think about life. However, I consider them to be mentors because the thing that they're doing that can happen in both a formal or an informal way is they're providing guidance and advice about how to do life. In some ways, they're providing skill development, like watching Tabitha Brown and how her life has unfolded, how her brand has unfolded has really informed my brand a lot. They can provide career insights, and they don't always have to be directly tied to your particular career. Now, I will tell you, I am fortunate to have some really amazing mentors who are actually like in-person type people, some of them for as long as, 25 or 30 years, which is a real blessing. And so certainly they provide career insights because I am a higher education professional, and that's where I've been spending my time for the last 32 years. The other thing that they do is they provide honest feedback and perspective. My mentors do not suffer fools. They do not hold back. They do not try to make me feel amazing about things that I don't need to be feeling amazing about. If they will snatch me is what I'll tell you. They will help me get my life together when I need to get my life together. And what I always say to people, a variety of mentors will be very useful to you. If I need a cheerleader, I know who to call. If I need somebody to tell me some truth, I know who to call. And I think it's important to have a variety of those people in your world. The next group I want to talk about is sponsors. Now, this is the one that perhaps we don't talk about nearly enough because I think, again, people don't necessarily know how to move in the world of sponsorship. But what I'm going to say to you is, again, these people are already probably in your world. They're probably already actively doing what they do for you, but you just don't know what to call them. So as your leadership continues to grow, some of your relationships are going to evolve beyond guidance and become advocates for your advancement. You want this. I am at a level now where it is very rare that I just do a cold invitation to, so if somebody posts a job, it is rare that I would just do a cold application for a position. I know people, so I'm going to call somebody. I'm going to say, who do we know at this institution? Or what can you tell me about this president? Or what can you tell me about this opportunity? And inevitably, there's someone in my network who can make a call on my behalf, or who's going to nominate me for a job, or who's going to put my name into rooms that I'm not in. So sponsors will use their influence and they will use their credibility to help you to advance your career. They will recommend you for opportunities. They'll nominate you for leadership roles. They will expand your visibility. Here's a fun story. My first interaction with leadership came through a nomination by one of my sponsors. She was the one who received the first phone call to come in and do the in-person keynoting that was happening at Leadership 2023. She was unable to do it, but she knew that this was a space that I was working in, that I love women, that I love leadership and leadership. And so she put my name into the room, and Jackie made that phone call. And we've been rocking it out for about a really long time now. What was it, 6 years, 5 years? We've been together for a very long time now. But that's how that started. There was a sponsor who said, I can't do it, but I think you should give a call to Shigs. I think she could be perfect for this. And so what you're seeing now and the relationship that I have with Jax, it has grown deeper and deeper, where I've also sponsored her because of the growth of this relationship. So again, sponsors are people who are going to put their name on the line for you and advocate for you and really make sure that you can have a seat at the table, even if you're not in the rooms where those conversations are taking place. So the next place I want to take you to is, this is the one we don't talk about as much. And what I'm going to say to you is, again, sometimes people see the word coach and they think to themselves, I can't afford one. I'm going to ask you to shift your mindset about what a coach is and what a coach isn't, and whether or not you can afford one. I'm going to say to you, you cannot afford to not have a coach. You need a coach in your life. Now, does that cost you money? It can, depending upon the kind of coach that you go after, but not all coaches cost money. So let me describe what I think a coach is. Coaches play a very different role from mentors. While mentors share advice based upon their experiences, coaches help leaders make meaning of their own experiences. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have some lived experiences that might align with the things that you're going through. It doesn't mean, so I'm a coach. I'm an executive and leadership transitions coach, and I work with people in higher education settings. So I have 32 years of experience that I bring to the table, and that informs the kind of questions that I ask. But what coaches should be doing is asking really powerful questions that clarify thinking, that help to deepen your self-awareness, and that support intentional action. It doesn't mean that they're solving the problems for you. It means they're supporting your reflection. They're helping around accountability for action. And again, they're not putting the accountability measures in place. You're putting the accountability measures in place, and then they're serving as a support in that process. Sometimes if you're feeling a little jammed up and you think you don't have the answers, what a coach can do a beautiful job of doing is asking you powerful questions and then naming for you the themes that they've heard and the things that you're saying, because sometimes the answer is right there in front of you and you are missing it because you're lost in the sauce, but they're standing outside of the sauce and they're seeing things that you can't necessarily see. So again, the goal of a coach is really to help you to discover your own answers. And so I like to call them a catalyst in this process. So let's talk, and this is the slide I really wanted to get to. I really want to talk a little bit about how you build your circle, and it may not look exactly the way you think it would. One of the first things that I think you have to do is to really be clear about what it is you need. Like, what kind of a support system do you need right now in order to support you? I will say, if you try to go after all of these at once, you will become overwhelmed. And so maybe it's just focusing on what you need in the next 15 to 30 days, as opposed to what you want this thing to look like a year from now. Again, all of these roles may already exist in your life. And so you may not have to search very far, but I'm saying you don't have to build this overnight. Select the one that you feel like you need to devote the most energy to, and then spend some time on that. So for some of you, and I actually had a conversation with someone the other day who said, I'm introverted and I don't see the need to build relationships. I get in, I get out, I do what needs to be done. And I said, well, let me offer you a different way to think about what relationships are, and pointed out to her some of the very same things that I'm saying to you today, that the relationship that you're avoiding could be the one that catalyzes what's next for you. They could be that mentor. They could be that sponsor. They could be the person who's already been where you're trying to go, and they have inroads into how you can get there. And so you can be introverted and still have this powerful circle of relationships. So don't breathe in the narratives or accept these notions that you have to be all or nothing. You can be introverted, extroverted, ambiverted, and still have a powerful circle of leadership around you. And I am going to submit that you do need to have that. The other thing I want to talk about is, recognizing where these relationships emerge. So again, this is where I'm going to really encourage you to get connected. So how do you get connected? I'm going to name a whole bunch of things that you all should know, but you might not know, or maybe you know it, but you don't realize you know it. I'll say it that way because I don't like to shoot on people. So professional associations. Some of you have been doing life in a professional association this entire time, but you haven't necessarily leveraged that to the degree that you could. And so professional associations are a great place for any combination of these relationships to emerge. Student organizations. So again, if you're a student right now, whether that's an undergraduate student or maybe you are a graduate student, and you think to yourself, well, where am I going to get this? I can't afford to join a professional association. I don't necessarily have that kind of bandwidth. If you're in a student organization, you're already getting that. Maybe you're in a book club. Maybe you're hanging out in a group at church. Some of you, like, you have time for church and school, or maybe a little bit of service on the side, right? Whatever communities you find yourself planted in, these relationships can emerge in those places. Supervisors can be some of the greatest avenues for building your particular network, especially if you have a really good one. Really good supervisors sometimes show up in a variety of different ways. Some of my best supervisors have been both mentors and sponsors and coaches who help to connect me to a wider network. Now, not everybody is blessed in that way. However, I wouldn't just dismiss supervisors. And it doesn't have to be your current supervisor. It could be a former supervisor, or it could be somebody who's across campus. So I'm a campus person. It could be somebody across campus who you really admire, who you really want to emulate some of the things that they're doing, or you appreciate how their journey has unfolded. And so again, it could be cross-departmental. There's so many different ways to do this. And I'm naming off all of these things because I want you to understand that you don't have to put yourself into a box. The other thing I want to talk about is learning how to make the ask. Now, these are some pretty boring examples on the screen, but sometimes people just need the words to say. So I provided these boring examples on the screen. But what I'm going to say to you is sometimes it can be really direct, sometimes it can be indirect. The very first mentor that rocked with me right up until she passed away 3 years ago. So gosh, 20 some odd years, 27, 28 years, is somebody that I met through a New Professionals Institute. She just happened to be my faculty member. It could have ended right there. There could have been nothing else that took place from that relationship. I never asked her to formally be my mentor, but she is someone that I really appreciated how she moved through the world. I thought she was pretty brilliant and amazing. And so I found ways to be in her sphere, whether it was volunteering for something that she was doing and I knew she needed an extra set of hands, or it was showing up at a session that she was presenting at a regional or a national conference. It was making her aware that I was available to contribute in whatever ways that she needed me to. And then I did the same with a bunch of the other faculty who happened to be a part of that New Professionals Institute. So none of those people did I ever ask to be a formal mentor to me. One of my other mentors, I actually got paired with her to be a faculty member for some institute. And can I just tell you, she had been in the profession for probably 30, 40 years at that point, and I was a pretty new professional, yet they had put me with this woman and we were supposed to present these sessions together. And so I had to really sort of work with myself to think about, what do I have to contribute in this moment? Because I was pretty intimidated by her. What emerged from the time that we spent together is a mutual respect. And she said, you have so much to contribute. And then we started to find reasons to spend time together at regional conferences, national conferences. She started to pursue me for job opportunities on her campus. So she quickly moved from somebody who was a mentor to me to suddenly someone who became a sponsor. She was like, you are offering something so good. I'm not even sure you know how good it is, that I want you to come and do it on my particular campus. And that has led to amazing opportunities for me. So again, I'm going to leave that on the screen for you if you want to use those examples. They're perfectly valid. They're a little more direct. And if direct isn't your approach, then just put yourself in a position, in a space to be around folks who are doing the things that you want to do, who are contributing in the ways that you want to contribute. You don't always have to be in someone's face about what it is you want for them. Hopefully, the thing that you pulled from the things that I just said to you about how I cultivated some of my deepest relationships is I offered to be of service. I offered to volunteer. I offered to contribute so that I wasn't just in a situation where I was asking them to give, where I was always in a stance of taking. It was really important for me to be in a position of also being a contributor. So I want you to think about, because often we think we don't have anything to contribute. I submit to you, you do have something to contribute, and you should be thinking about how can you benefit someone? How can you benefit the people that you're asking to also benefit you? And then the other thing I'm going to say is strategy 4, nurture the relationship. This, by the way, is where most people completely fall down on the job. They don't mean to. How many of you have gone to a conference, and I want you to be honest about it? You went to a conference, you collected about 20, 30 business cards. You even did the thing that they told you to do back in the day. You flipped the card over, you made a little note about how you met the person and all of that. And that's for those of us that are still using paper cards. Maybe you're using digital cards. So now you're being super fancy and you're scanning the QR code and it's falling directly into your phone. And then nothing. You come home from the conference, you go into the budget retreat, you get an upper respiratory infection, you go to bed for 3 days, and then you don't follow up because then you're on spring break and you have 100,000 things you need to do, and then you're back in the fray before you know it. That's my story. But the difference between that story I just told you and this whole notion of nurturing relationships is the other thing that I did as soon as I left that conference while I was still on the airplane is start to reach out to people on LinkedIn, on Facebook. So, and reminded them while it was still hot and fresh in my mind about how we had connected or how we had not connected. And I really wanted to connect with them. So, what I'm going to say to you is nurture the relationship. And by the way, just because you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, it's the beginning of a relationship, but that is not, in fact, a relationship. Just because you follow someone on Facebook or that isn't necessarily a relationship. It is engaging with them. It's the follow-up conversations. It's sharing progress updates. If they were interested in something that you were working on, then it's giving them a heads up. Here's how that's working out for me. It's expressing appreciation if someone did something or said something that impacted you or that landed well for you or that helped you to make meaning of something. It's doing those kinds of things. And then again, it's supporting others in return. So a lot of the women that are on the stage today, we have posted and reposted each other, or Jax put something out and we forwarded, or we invited a bunch of our other friends to join us in this setting because it's really important that you expand your leadership circle and you keep them strong with this whole notion of reciprocity. So that's some of the how. Here's that worksheet that I was going to drop in the chat for you. You can take a picture of it now if you would like, and I promise I will send it to you. You don't want to mess up this delicate situation that I have going on here right now. It's real delicate. So here's the worksheet that I created for you that gives you an opportunity to think more deeply about your networks, your mentors, your sponsors, your coach. You might have some other relationships in there, but these are the ones that I consider to be the most important. And again, I think the network is foundational. Sometimes people are like, I'm going to get me a mentor and then I'm going to develop a network, or I'm going to get me a coach and then I submit that the network is the easiest place to start because I think it's low risk to join an organization or to participate in a small group. I think that's lower risk than going up to somebody and saying, Ashley Hubler, be my mentor. Julie, be my sponsor. Jen, will you please be my coach and do it for free? I think it's less risky to go into a situation where you're in a group because there's a whole bunch of other people there too. And then mentors. I want you to think about who advises and guides you. You probably haven't thought of them as a mentor, but I'm willing to bet you money they are a mentor and they're contributing to your world in some interesting ways. And then I'm going to ask you one additional question. How are you contributing to their world so that it is a mutually beneficial relationship? By the way, relationship means that no one person is doing all the heavy lifting. It means it's back and forth. There's some give and some take. There's some giving and some sharing on both sides of that equation. If I'm in a relationship and I'm doing all the taking, that means I might need to revisit how I'm doing that because there's some areas of growth there. Sponsors, who advocates for you in rooms that you are not in? Is there someone who helped you to get to your current seat for a different seat that you have not acknowledged as a sponsor? I'm going to say you want to reach out today, and thank them because people don't have to put your name into rooms. It means that they have taken note of your knowledge, skills, abilities, talent, and gifting, and they're willing to put their reputation on the line to provide you with an opportunity to be in a space before you arrive in that space, and that they say a really amazing and wonderful things about you. They're providing testimonials that you do not even know that they're providing. So, one, I'm going to say to you, acknowledge them. Two, be sure that you are talking about the wonderful things that you are doing. Your sponsors can be a lot more fabulous at what they do if they know what you're up to, if they know the amazing things that you are contributing to the world. And then a coach who helps you reflect, clarify your thinking, and to grow. Who are those people for you? Again, they don't have to be a paid coach. If you are someone who is privileged enough to have a paid coach, I think that's fabulous. And as a coach and as somebody who has her own active coach, I'm going to say to you, if you can afford to do it, absolutely invest in that. It will change your entire life, especially if you're matched up with a coach that really resonates for you. So absolutely do that. But even if you can't, there are people out there, and I know because I do it every day with the people that I am actually supervising, who I coach on a regular basis and charge them nothing. They're getting paid to do the work they're doing, but it's, for me, coaching is still a really important part of that. Here's the other half of that worksheet. So reflection. This reflection is really about strengthening your circle. So again, you can take a picture of these. I will certainly make sure that when Jax sends out the information, that everybody also gets a copy of this reflection sheet. But I'm going to read these out loud for you so you can hear where these questions are taking you. Which relationships in your leadership circle is currently missing or underdeveloped? So that you heard that a little bit on the other card. Who is speaking in your name in rooms that you're not in? What do we call that? All together now, a sponsor. Who asks the questions that help you think more deeply about your leadership? Who is that? Well, you know who that is. It's a coach. Whose leadership circles are you currently strengthening? We hadn't talked about that one yet, right? So the beauty of this is the reciprocity that happens as people pour into you and you pour into others. Then it expands your leadership circle and expands your network and expands everybody's reach. Sometimes I think we are in situations where people believe that not everyone can have a seat at the table and that there isn't room for everyone. I submit to you that you are an individual and I'm an individual, and everybody on this call is an individual, which means we all have our own things to contribute. So Jax can be super sparkly, but she gave Jen an opportunity to be sparkly, and Shigs an opportunity to be sparkly, and Vasu an opportunity to be sparkly. There's so many of us who wouldn't otherwise be here if she hadn't extended us the opportunity. And then where might your next person come from in your current environment in terms of a mentor, sponsor, collaborator? And then this one is really important to make sure that you don't just leave this setting and not go into the next one without thinking about this. What conversation might help you strengthen your leadership circle in the next 30 days? This is where you put all of what you just learned in this setting into action. So it's great that you can define all of these different roles and that you even understand how they come together and how they're foundational and what all those pieces look like. But what I'm going to say to you is it is equally important that you take the next step. Again, Jen said something really powerful, and I was like, yes, she's my person. Like, you're one of my people because she talks the way I do. And essentially, here's what she said. And I'm going to paraphrase it and not get it exactly right, but she said, courage precedes confidence. So some of you are waiting to feel confident before you do something. I'm going to say you just need to take your next courageous step. In fact, every book that I ever signed says be courageous, because I think courage, like Maya Angelou, is the greatest of all the virtues. And all you need is the courage to move in a particular direction. And then I promise you, when you make a step, the universe and all the things around you will align and begin to move in the direction that you're headed. But if you don't move, then nothing around you will move and you will stay stagnant. So, in order to begin to build your leadership circle, you have to make some movement. So, this is the end. I wanted to show it to you on a big screen again so you could see it. Networks, leader and coach. So now you understand that because coach is a part of a relationship. That's why leader and coach are there together. Sponsors and mentors. Each of them play different roles in your life, but each of them are important to making sure that you're able to advance in the ways that you need to. Thank you so much for coming to my session. And if you want to talk more about this, join me at 2:15 for the Mentor Networking Group.